Come along and play a game of imagination with me. Let's imagine your favorite food. Could be anything. And over the years, you've come to cherish and treasure this tasty treat. It's never done you wrong, always hits the spot, and is something to safely rely on when there's nothing else to eat. Then imagine one day you come home to chow down on your desired delicacy, only to realize that after a mouthful or two, something's off. You take a look at it, smell it, give it another bite, and it further proves the point that whatever you're eating is a cheap imitation of what you thought it was. Sure, it's giving a hell of an effort, but it just doesn't match up to that picture-perfect food you know and love. That brings me nice and neatly over to the beginning of the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where the whole thing kicks off with knockoff Captain America in his old high school locker room getting a pep talk from his girlfriend and best bud about how he'll do just fine as the new Cap. I couldn't be more confident that he will. Before I get any further, I'm sure you already know what's coming here. If I could just go ahead and ask for you to hit that subscribe and notifications bell, that would be greatly appreciated. This way you get a chance to keep up with all of these breakdowns, reviews, theories, discussions, whatever else it is that I'm going to be putting on this channel. We then see John Walker run out onto his school football field to be interviewed on Good Morning America, and he does seem to effortlessly give off a Captain America-like vibe, but as if we weren't reminded enough of him not being Steve Rogers just by looking at him, we see Bucky at home watching the discussion take place, and the poor guy just seems so distraught by what he's viewing, and rightfully so. His best friend in the world fought his ass off to save him, and Bucky knew what that mantle and shield meant to Steve, so to see some schmuck from the army be given the title just because he's physically fit is heartbreaking for him. Cut over to Sam being confronted by Bucky about giving up the shield, and Sam's basically like, whatever, it happened. Don't worry about how Bucky knew where to find him, by the way. And then Sam explains his mission to go to Munich to search after the Flag Smashers and find out more about their super soldieredness, and Bucky decides to tag along. After an awkward staring match, which these two have a lot of, Sam flies out of the plane without telling Bucky the plan, and Bucky follows him by jumping out of the plane without a parachute, cause, you know, he's a super soldier too. Him and Sam sneak into a facility to find some Flag Smashers smuggling some stolen medicine, and they detect what they believe to be a hostage, so they chase after the trucks. Bucky runs up to it and finds Enfys Nest chilling in the back, who quickly proceeds to give Bucky a little whooping and breaks Red Wing in half. Just when it's looking bad for our heroes, who jumps in for the rescue? None other than knockoff Captain America, of course. But not alone. He's accompanied by his sidekick, Lamar Hoskins. New Cap shows off some of his shield throwing skills, but his fighting doesn't hold up so well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like he can't fight, but he clearly just gets his ass handed to him pretty quick. After Sam and Bucky get knocked off the truck and fall back, John Walker goes a step toe-to-toe with Enfys Nest and promptly gets kicked off as well. As the Falcon and the Winter Soldier go to walk the rest of their way to the airport, they are met in a car by New Cap and his sidekick who offer a ride. But Sam and Buck are like, fuck off. John Walker does his best to level with the duo and convince him that he's a good guy, and they finally submit to being their fellow passengers. But the conversation quickly shows the tension between the two pairs. Sam and Bucky explain about the super soldiers, while the other guys admit that they only knew about the situation by tracking Red Wing, which obviously ruffles Sam's feathers. Get it? I'm sorry, forgive me, I know, it was cheesy. After Lamar Hoskins reveals his superhero name to be Battlestar, Bucky gets the hell up out of the car and Sam takes off with him. But not before New Cap desperately tries to convey that he's not trying to be or replace Steve Rogers, just be the best Captain America he can be. Which, for what it's worth, it does seem like he's trying to be genuine here, but I still don't blame the two for walking away. Cut over to Enfys Nest and her other Flag Smasher super soldiers taking refuge at some foreign guy's place, and it's finally revealed on camera that Enfys is actually named Carly, and she gets a threatening text message from an unknown identity. Perhaps the Flag Smashers aren't the big bads of the show? On the plane ride home, Bucky tells Sam about a secret someone they should meet, so they go to meet him, and it turns out to be Isaiah Bradley, another super soldier from back in the old World War I days. But their attempts to get Isaiah to talk and dive deeper into the mystery behind other super soldiers gets cut short when the elderly man quickly shows he's had more than enough discussions about this subject in his life, and the two get kicked out of his house. After exiting and going down the street, they get stopped by the cops, who somehow don't manage to recognize the Falcon. But forget that, because just when you thought this was a big mistake and they were going to drive off, they arrest Bucky for missing his court-mandated therapy session. Come on, Buck. Down at the precinct, Sam meets Bucky's therapist and assumes she's the one that bailed him out, but turns out knockoff Captain America did. Miss Therapist has an on-the-spot session with the two heroes, and it's just as awkward as you would expect it to be. But it does lead to an emotional moment with Bucky where we get a chance to understand his thought process a bit, but Sam's like, Fuck your feelings. I did what I thought was right. They both leave and find Knockoff Cap and Battlestar waiting for them outside, who reveals the leader of the Flag Smashers is Carly Morgenthau and gives a final shot at getting everyone to work together. But it's a no-go for Sam and Bucky, who prefer the flexibility of working as free agents, and Walker leaves them with a chilling piece of advice. Stay the hell out of his way. You do realize you're talking to the former Winter Soldier, right? He could, punch a hole straight through your abdomen before you even think of making your own piss-poor attempt at saying, "Avengers, assemble." Yeah, whatever. Over in Bratislava, Carly and her crew are loading up a plane with the medicine they got from earlier, but they find out that their location has been discovered, and one of the guys decides to sacrifice himself by holding off the oncoming forces to give them some more time to get away, which they do. Finally, we're brought over to Bucky telling Sam how their best source of information on super soldiers is the one and only villain from Captain America Civil War, Baron Zemo, and Bucky wants to go talk to him. Better hope his first sentence doesn't begin with the word longing, bud. Then the episode ends. So there's the breakdown of episode 2, The Star-Spangled Man. Quite a bit more to digest here than the first episode. I'm enjoying the angle they seem to be taking so far with John Walker. He legitimately seems like a decent human being who's just trying not to fuck up the opportunity thrown on top of him. But I'm sure the pressure of the role, Sam and Bucky deciding to not work with him, and some other upcoming factors will slowly begin to break him down, turning him into one of the villains of the show. Or I could see it being somewhat of the opposite. I almost wouldn't be surprised if they kept his viewers on the fence on how to really feel about him until he heroically sacrifices himself towards, or in the finale, opening up the possibility for the mantle to be taken over by yet another person. And verbal jabs aside for the moment, props to Wyatt Russell's performance as the new Cap so far. He's believable in the role, but you also look at him and kind of go you're like if the CW made a Captain America show. Seeing more of the Flag Smashers' intentions and humanity was a nice addition, and the text message situation with Carly added an extra element of mystery to a show that has been pretty straightforward about everything so far. And even though I think they could actually tone it down a bit sometimes, I am enjoying the friction and banter between Bucky and Sam. The therapy session felt like an odd situation, turned into a decent opportunity to character develop, and then back into kind of an odd situation. I wish Sam would have taken a moment to pause and hear Bucky out further. It's nearly the first damn time the poor guy has been willing to discuss a smidgen of his emotions. He's concerned that if Steve was wrong about Sam being the right choice to be the new Captain America, perhaps he was also wrong that Bucky could redeem himself, be a good person, and have a life of peace. I understand they had important shit going on at the time, and that Sam was standing his ground on doing what he thought was right. But for 2 episodes in a row now, it just seems like not many people are willing to level with Bucky. And don't give me the whole, well dude, it's because he used to be the Winter Soldier nonsense. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but he was also brainwashed into being that living puppet. If you got hypnotized to commit a horrific act, and then afterwards were judged entirely based on said act, you'd probably feel a little down and out and potentially desperate for some understanding too. I just hope that by the end of the series, the poor guy finds a bit of peace, or better yet, becomes the new Captain America. I know a whole bunch of people living within the MCU would probably throw a fit, but then make that a main story element of his journey moving forward, and Sam could be the one that helps him through the trials and tribulations, becoming his new BFF in the process. It's not that I don't want to see the Falcon become Captain America. I always thought it was exciting when he took over the mantle for a bit in the comics, and the design of his costume during his tenure looked pretty cool, but I just like him as the Falcon. I feel like even though he's had 6 MCU appearances prior to the show, I still haven't seen enough of him in this role. Or maybe it's just because he fits the role so well. Either way, he still doesn't seem keen on taking over the mantle for himself, so you never know where it's gonna go. And I want to hear where you all think it's gonna go. What are your opinions on the new John Walker Captain America and his sidekick Battlestar? Who do you think sent Enfys Nest that threatening text? Am I gonna keep calling her Enfys Nest every time I review the show? Like the video if you enjoy this content, drop your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and I'll catch you at the next review.